Make It Right, the manufacturing podcast.
Welcome to the Make It Right podcast, the first of the year for 2019. I'm Janet Eastman. Kevin Snook joins me from Bangkok. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, and Happy New Year, Janet.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too. So it's a brand new year. We made it through 33 podcasts in 2018. We covered a whole bunch of information in those 33 podcasts. And we actually started out talking about your book, Make It Right, 5 Steps to Align Your Manufacturing Business from the Front Line to the Bottom Line. Now, this is a process that you developed, tested, and perfected over a number of years as a manufacturing consultant. So for those who perhaps haven't heard all the podcasts and aren't familiar with the process, can you actually share a story with us about how this process has impacted a company or companies that you've worked with?
Wow, yeah, thank you for that. The Align process is this 5-step process. So Align, A-L-I-G-N. And it's really aim from the heart, which means have a very clear direction. Lead with the frontline people, so set a plan together that works with the frontline people, so everybody's involved in the plan. Inspire with information, so make sure that people have the right information every minute of the day to make great decisions. G, which is give help and support, to make sure that you're really, as one of the roles of a leader, you really need to be making sure that everybody is getting the help and support that they need to overcome the barriers that are obviously going to come up in their work. And then nurture with feedback and recognition. And the N for nurture really means let's recognize, take the time to recognize people, take the time to recognize achievements, and make sure that the business is always moving forward. And I think each step of that process is different for each CEO and each business. But I've recently been working with a company in China, and after doing, just maybe an hour and a half of training with the leadership team around this process, I went back to see them the month after that. And they had taken this process, they'd translated it all into Chinese, they'd taken the whole leadership team through it. And the spark and the energy that I felt in the room the following time I went back was just incredible. And within, I would say, a month, they had turned from feeling like work was hard to there was possibility and hope. And although it's still too early in the process to say that we're getting great results from that, I've already had a couple of their customers contact me and say that they can feel a change. They can feel a change as they're starting to talk to the leadership team. So I think in many ways, it takes 18 months to really change a culture and make sure that gets installed in a place. But even early on, as people see that an organization is going through a positive change that's going to impact them as individuals, I think there's real hope and possibility in that. And that's part of the change process, right? Is having people believe that there's maybe an easier way to work in manufacturing, which traditionally is a little bit dour, a little bit difficult, and very challenging.
I think it's interesting you say that they see that there is hope and possibility. I don't think life's worth living if there isn't something to hope for and there isn't possibilities. So to see that within 30 days, they can actually feel that the power of that change within their factory, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's really palpable. You can the way that this comes across is, for example, we were talking about, aim from the heart. And that was around the CEO really having an absolutely clear direction of where he wants the business to go. And then as you start articulating that to the rest of the team, you can see light bulbs going off in their head, that they're like, yeah, okay. And then when you talk about that for their individual department, it's like, okay, the quality department, what's your real purpose? How are you really adding value to the business? And they start off by saying the obvious things like, we have to reduce defects and we have to make sure that the customer gets what they're supposed to get. And then when we start digging into that a little bit more deeply and talking around, well, no, how do you really want to impact the world? What difference do you want to make? And they start seeing themselves as, this particular group saw themselves as the protectors of the customer, but also the protectors of the business as it grows, because quality defects, a quality issue, a major claim can have a devastating effect on a business. And so they now see themselves as the defenders or the protectors of the consumer and the company. And that's a whole new take on quality. And these are their words, these are not my words. And so as people see this process and they see their role in the business slightly differently, it does inspire hope and possibility.
So when you're meeting with companies and you're talking about the align process and you're getting them working through it, which step in the align process is the one that's the hardest for them?
Ooh, it's a great question.
I guess, you know what, I guess it all depends on, where you are in your business and then maybe your personalities. But is there one that sticks out in your head that, yeah, this one sometimes is a real challenge? Like for me, I would think that the aim from the heart, because, and we've talked about this in the past where it's, people go, well, it's a bit touchy feely, right? But if you're not going with your heart, then you're not actually really putting your best effort in.
Yeah, and that does set the real direction for the business and for each department. And it is a little bit touchy-feely, but I think people want that anyway. So in our discussions, if you can switch people's mind a little bit and say, hey, okay, look, let's drop some of the preconceived ideas that we have, and let's just for a minute, let's just for a minute allow ourselves to kind of dream a little bit and aim a little bit. Then that aim from the heart and actually flows quite naturally because it's something that people want. And we don't do that every month. You're not going back and re-aiming every month. And so I would say that there's perhaps an emotional challenge in that one where people need to get themselves into the right mental state to be able to come up with that. But I wouldn't say that was the most difficult. Sometimes it's difficult for the CEO to articulate that and needs a little bit of help. But I would say that probably the most challenging is around meetings culture and how you go into a meeting with the intention of making a decision and the intention of helping people in their role and with their responsibility. So traditionally, meetings have been a frustrating place for people. They've been a place where it's really a matter of, can we just get through this? A lot of people are switched off in the meeting. There's too many people in the meeting. Changing that culture, having people have the confidence to only take the people into the meetings that are necessary to be in there to make a decision, rather than just have a huge gathering of people that is frankly just a waste of time. And so that in many companies, that meeting culture has been a challenge to change.
You've logged a lot of miles visiting factories in 2018. So what were some of the manufacturing CEO's major concerns and challenges in 2018?
Yeah, the previous year has been a lot of travel. We've been from all the way across the world to Colombia, many different countries this year, and I would say it's fairly consistent. There's two sides to it. One of them is sales. So every company, the only person who brings money into the company are the salespeople, and so they have a huge challenge at making sure that the money continues to flow in and continues to flow through, especially in certain parts of the world where the economy is struggling. But I would say internally, it goes back to people. And it's really around, do we have the right people in the right places to make the types of decisions that we need to be making? And so, continually in manufacturing, people is a challenge.
Yeah, and how are they addressing that challenge then?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of them are rotating through new employees, new hires, looking for the right golden bullet or silver bullet.
That's an expensive process.
It is, and it's incredibly frustrating for the organization as well, because every time you bring in a new operations manager, the whole that whole dialogue with the operations team is changing. And we talked a little bit more about hope and possibility. And you bring somebody in, there's a period of hope and possibility. And if you're continually rotating those people, it's incredibly frustrating. The ones who are doing better are really working on internal development of the people. And that's a matter of finding out what the individuals really need from a business perspective, but also from a life perspective. How does the business, how do they work in the business and improve their life at the same time? And so I've talked to a couple of CEOs that are giving people really unique opportunities to expand their work outside of work, in order to be able to help them with their focus and their energy in work. And so I was
And
developing the people is critical.
yeah, so that it's basically what they're trying to do is retain people rather than have to go and find somebody new, because it's probably easier to keep people happy than find somebody who's going to fit the role properly.
Yeah, and it's train and retain. People have to
Hmm.
be growing, and you want people that are growing. You want people that are feeling inspired and are feeling energized. And so one of the roles of companies or corporations, I believe, in the world is to elevate the world. And one very clear role, especially in manufacturing companies where we have so many people, is we have an opportunity to inspire our workforce and make sure that the people are going home at the end of the day full of energy and full of life and feeling like it was a great day and looking forward to coming to work again the next day. And if we can do that in manufacturing companies, and that it touches a lot of lives, then we have an opportunity actually to, it sounds a little bit corny, but we do have an opportunity to start changing the world. And that's where I see a great role for manufacturing leaders, because they touch so many different people's lives.
So is that one of the trends that you saw developing in 2018, or was there something else that was happening that you thought was interesting?
Yeah, I would love to say that that was a trend. Honestly, it's still a struggle, I think, for a lot of companies. And so I certainly wouldn't say it's trending yet in terms of treating the people in the most effective way. There's a small group of companies that are doing that. I'd love to see a lot more doing it. But no, I wouldn't say that was yet a trend. If I looked at trends, possibly there's a lot of talk now about Industry 4.0 and how
Hmm.
that might change the life for manufacturing people, and how it might increase profits and increase sales and be a competitive edge. So I think that many of the companies are looking into that, not quite sure yet how it's going to affect them, or necessarily how to leverage the incredible capabilities that come with Industry 4.0 and data systems and all the other possibilities that are out there at the moment. I think it's a little bit confusing for people, but I would say it's definitely a trend that people are waking up to that as an opportunity and trying to figure out how best to utilize it in their business.
Right. And so what are the synergies that you would see between that and, say, the align process?
But for me, in the align process, there's a critical part, which is the I, which is inspire with information. And this is where I think there's a real opportunity for people to be able to get information um, at their fingertips in the right way to the right people, so that they can make the decisions themselves. A big part of what we talk about is turning this organizational pyramid on its head. Uh, in the past, it's always been around the leader has to tell other people what to do. And in order to do that, they need to get a lot of information from people. And the way they get that information is by people writing reports and going to meetings and doing presentations and spending a huge amount of time manipulating data. If we turn that organization on its head, and the way that it works is that the leader is always asking, what help and support do you need? Then everybody in the organization needs to have the right information at their fingertips to be able to make their own decisions, rather than have all the decisions made for them. And so we're at a very unique time at the moment where smartphones and cellular data and connectivity with machinery and automation are all coming together. They're all at a critical point. And there's an opportunity for manufacturers to tap into that and make sure that everybody does have the right information in their hands at all times in a way that is set up for them to be able to make smart decisions. And this is where we talk about smart factories and the connectivity part of it. I don't want to overcomplicate all of that. I think it's relatively simple. It's about having the data in the hands of the right people to make a good decision.
So do you think that part right there is where you see the Align process having the biggest impact in 2019?
I think that whole area around simplifying data, people talk about big data, and I've had CEOs say to me, Kevin, we don't need any more data. And in a way, they're absolutely right. There's a lot of information coming through already. What they don't necessarily have is the right data in the right format for the right people to make decisions. And so that's an area where that I in the Align process, inspire with information, I think that will have a huge impact on companies, not only in 2019, but if we look over the next 5 to 10 years when other parts of technology are kicking in, blockchain, etc. I think you'll find that there's a synergy between all of those areas.
I'd actually like to talk to you more about blockchain technology and how it applies to manufacturing. But unfortunately, Kevin, we're completely out of time, so maybe we can address that next week. We've talked a lot in this show about the Align process. So if you're interested to learn more about that process that Kevin has developed, you can check out his book. It's called Make It Right, 5 Steps to Align Your Manufacturing Business from the Front Line to the Bottom Line. And it's available on Amazon.com. Thanks very much, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm Janet Eastman. Thanks very much for listening to the Make It Right podcast.